that was our
Recording now. All right, so we'll start by having you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Dan. You may know me by such things as DJ11 or that guy at Late Bar. I don't know.
Yeah,
We can try again.
no, that's all right. I don't know how to do video editing yet, so all of this is going to go in.
Great.
So, where'd you come up with DJ11?
Spinal Tap.
Ah, okay.
It goes to 11.
Goes to 11. Gotcha. All right. So, speaking of Spinal Tap, moving into just
We're living in Spinal Tap currently.
what does music mean to you?
Everything. I think during this pandemic, it's really become very clear what it means. It has literally been my saving grace. I'm very emotional of a being, and without certain outs, you kind of implode, and you don't really realize what those outs are until you don't have them. So being a very social person, not having the ability to be social has, you know, made me, be a little bit more introverted about life. And I'm probably just going to sound like an idiot through this whole thing, so bear with me. I we pretty quickly started streaming with Late Bar,
Yeah.
just to try to keep relevance during this and go, hey, don't forget about us. And not long after we started doing it, for Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, I'm like, hey, I'll do Mondays, and I can do kind of a throwback to when I was at Neo doing Metal Mondays,
Right.
and have fun, because since Lisa does most Wednesdays, I did one or two on Wednesday before I did kick the Mondays out. That was my Rock of Ages night, which is what I do at the bar on Wednesdays, monthly. So when uh, so it started pretty quickly, and it grew from just being, oh, here's some friends online that I can chat with, to like just going back into that DJ mode that I haven't been in a long time, of searching out and trying to find new things.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the wonderful musicians out there have been doing a lot of quarantine videos,
Right.
that have been just amazing, hysterical, fun. And there's a shameless plug. There's a great one called 2 Minutes to Late Night that every Monday drops a new video. And it's always a rotating cast of people that are doing cover songs and just having fun with things that they love. And that's kind of become a staple in my presentation. I'll get the new track, I'll debut it, we'll laugh and count how many times Guarcinio jumps off the couch, and we just have fun with it. As this has progressed, I'm going to jump ahead to later in the interview. On Mondays, I also have a weekly meetup for Darkest Before Dawn, a nonprofit focused on the service industry, and we have a industry meetup every Monday. So Mondays quickly became my mental health Mondays. While we were in location and doing it, I made it to like 3 of the meetups, but I've been on all of the virtual meetups since we started going virtual. And so that has been like a amazing tool that I didn't know I needed. It's just seeing faces of people, and thankfully a lot of people that I know are on it. So, it's been this, touchstone of seeing friends, and then I go and DJ for friends.
Yeah.
And the Mondays have, as Mondays always did, morphed into, I mean, just literally being a free for all. And yeah, metal is the core of what I do, but it goes so much
Oh
further
yeah.
and out there from there. And I've kind of incorporated it to being more like what I do on the Wednesdays, which is, I kind of try to tell a story through music through time. And I usually start off lighter and like 60s and 70s
Yeah.
vibe and slowly move it into, rock and punk and metal, and then just
Requests.
go wherever, yeah, wherever the wherever the crowd throws the ball.
Right.
But so back to the what question. It
It's,
has
what does
it
music
has
mean to you?
right. It has solidified that my mental health cannot be stable without having some sort of musical interaction. And I mean, 5 6 days a week during during normal times, I'm surrounded by music.
Mhm.
um, whether it be driving all over the place, which not doing currently, or at work, which obviously a club, you always have music going. um, so the thought of not having it was was terrifying.
Yeah.
And I've definitely been using subscriptions much more during the pandemic, listening to Spotify, Bandcamp, doing all of the things, just trying to stay in contact with what's new, what's different, what people are doing, and figuring out new ways to connect through music.
Right.
So when I said everything at first, I really mean everything.
Yeah. This pandemic, I think one of the positives is this greater connection around the world
Mhm.
via music, particularly right now with Twitch, which hopefully doesn't go away, but we'll have to see about that.
Well, Periscope's going away in March.
Oh, is it?
They're, I think, Twitter's replacing it with Twitter Live, but I don't know
Oh,
how that's going to work.
right.
So hopefully we'll still have another channel there, but we've also moved to Mixcloud, which at least is, yeah, if you subscribe to them, you have a recorded presence from your set.
Okay.
It's not video, but it's at least audio, so people can go and listen and have
Yeah.
an idea of what it is you do.
Right.
Before the pandemic, every time I DJ, I would do a Spotify playlist of what I played throughout the night.
Mm,
Very few songs on weren't on Spotify, but if I were to try to do that now with all the quarantine stuff, there's no way to do it.
right.
So it's great to have some sort of recorded history of what you've done.
Well, I
But
think one of the really good things about this is the interaction that we didn't have, in the club. I mean, you couldn't very easily, go up to DJ booth and chat with them or hear,
right, right,
you weren't going to interrupt the dance floor by telling a story about something, right? Which some of the
right,
DJs
right.
will do here on Twitch. So it's really kind of a different thing, right? That
It is. It's kind of mixing the podcast element with, don't fall, uh, podcast element with what we do DJ wise.
right.
And I think that I believe that I was just saying this. I don't know if it was in our chat last week and on my stream, or if it was in the chat for the Darkest Before Dawn. But I was saying that the one thing that is exactly that is I can interact with people. And the one thing that I've always hated, was being tied to the DJ booth.
Yeah.
Like I would put on a playlist of like 6 songs, not to go too far out, but to be able to come out and say hi to people and, thank people for being there. But, I mean, it doesn't work if you're, you know, really deep
Right.
in customers. You can't get out and do that. And that interaction, is what was missing. I mean, I always love bartending with the music going because I can have conversations
Right.
about what's going on. So this kind of is a weird way of combining the both of them.
Yeah.
And
So
anyone who knows me knows I know how to talk. So
yeah. Well, you also have good stories, which I
well,
told
thank
you
you.
about a while ago that I thought you should be, putting them on YouTube or recording them or, in some way that, you've got a lot. But that led me to, once we got on the Twitch here, now I'm hearing lots of others telling interesting stories. And so that's kind of how this has come about is that, there's a lot of stories out there that, that aren't getting out that people really enjoy hearing.
Well, we
Um,
figured out a few new things that
yeah,
are potentially going to open up some new doors for interesting content. So you might be seeing more of a podcast, more podcast type things coming out from us, Lisa, myself,
yeah,
Carrie, maybe Leroy. Um, there's some really interesting software out there that's really easy to use, that is really easy to integrate, that we're going to be trying out for the first time for New Year's when we do our
okay,
New Year's stream. We're going to have up to 5 DJs DJing on New Year's, and all from our remote locations. And
yeah,
it should be without having to raid, which is amazing.
yeah,
So we'll see how that, that goes. Not to let the cat out of the bag, but there are some things in the works that we're trying to do because of that, and being able to tell these stories. Lisa has great stories that like nobody ever hears. It's
yeah.
like, so hopefully that'll transpire. And yes, with some prodding from people like you, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, so it just gets me thinking that, and I've said this to my students back in March, that the world's going to be different on the other side,
Hmm.
right? There's going to be a lot of things that are changing, and I think one of the things we're discovering is this interaction part that's been missing, right, in the club scene, the bar scene, right, and the global connections, right? We
What's
got these raids,
interesting,
going from Germany to the UK to New York to
right?
Chicago. Yeah.
What's interesting is right in the beginning of starting to do this, we saw the that element, and we're like, we have to figure out how we can do this when we're back. So we want to
Mhm.
get the bar wired to be able to
Right.
stream every time we're DJing, and then maybe incorporate cameras so you can see different elements of the bar, see us. But it's we're all figuring out how this works still at
Hmm.
this point. Thank you for teaching me about the hype train tonight. I had no idea what that was.
Well, it's because you guys
Um,
don't have subscriptions yet. You guys got to
well, I there
got to do it.
as I've told you the reasons why there's not subscriptions.
Yeah, I
So
know, I know.
if
Um,
it was my personal account, it would be no problem. But
yeah,
the bar's name is not owned by
right.
me
Yeah. Well, we could talk about
or
that
Lisa.
later. But I just as throwing out an idea for you. Once you get the cameras in there, like right now you have the $10 for 3 block or 2 block,
Mhm.
right? You could do that for um, control a camera, right? For if you could, if you have a camera that can be remotely controlled,
Oh, sure.
right? It's like control a camera for 10 minutes for $10, whatever. So you can, you can get that feel that you're there by looking around, all that.
That's interesting. We were who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody recently about the how the 360 technology has really like
Mhm.
just exploded, mostly during the pandemic, because people were at home, putzing around with it and figured out ways. But there are options to do, things like that. You just, when you're at your home, how much of your home do you want people to have view of?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've got, these cheap cameras that, you can move around, right? And it's just,
Yeah, yeah.
right. So you could do something like that. Um,
We
and
got
that gives
a
you, Another revenue stream there.
We just got a secondary camera to go to supplement the on deck camera, and a nice microphone. So we're thinking about taking these steps. The more of these kind of things that get done,
Hmm.
that every time that I do an interview or I'm talking to somebody, it's a little less nerve wracking to do.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
all of this helps.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like with my students, and when the first time they have to get up and do a pitch in front of class, they're all nervous as hell. By the end of the semester, they're pros at it because I make them do it a lot.
Hmm.
And then they're like, "Hey, you know what? I did the best presentation in this other class that I ever did because I've done this pitching so much." So, you know,
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's
you saw the nerves during the cold waves packages between all of us, like, and we're in a room full of friends talking about things, but it's like trying to cold talk about things is just so difficult. And we weren't smart enough to go, hey, here's a little script of things that we can go down and talk about. So,
yeah,
I mean, everything's a learning experience. And
yeah.
at this point, a lot of us old dogs are learning new tricks. So
Oh, there's always
that's
something to
good.
learn. There's always something to learn.
Well, that's
Uh,
true.
yeah. Um,
I'm
and
teaching myself chess.
nice.
Just
Um,
started today. It's not nice yet. I might give up tomorrow.
well, you could probably already beat me, so. um, that kind of jumps ahead a little bit to the entrepreneurship thing, and that one of the things that I'm always telling students is the only way something works is to try it, right?
Right.
To experiment, do little experiments that are not risky, right? So, you know, um, if there's something you want to do and you don't think it's going to go so well, you just try it. Don't promote it, but just see how it works.
Well,
You know,
the only path to success is truly through failures, because then you learn from your missteps.
right?
And failure is just such an ugly connotated word that it's like you really want to try and try and try and just
Hmm.
better yourself each time you're doing it.
Right,
And yes, you don't look back and go, well, that sucked. That was a complete failure, because that's not healthy.
right,
But if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have learned the mistake that you
right.
made and how to do it better the next time.
The only
So,
failure is not learning.
spoken like a true teacher.
Yeah, over the years, I've come up with lots of little phrases like that. So, um, but yeah, I mean, that's I also use the um, unverified, I would say, quote from Thomas Edison that I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work.
Right,
Right.
right. Well,
And so,
it's interesting that you like that concept. I was talking to a scientist friend of mine who works on virus
hmm,
that has switched over to
yeah,
working on COVID, but that they work in the AIDS research field. And normally in that field, there's not a lot of sharing of failures or things that don't work.
hmm,
But because the AIDS field has been around so long, they've gotten to the point that they're putting everything up. Oh, we did this today. This was the results. Oops. And then somebody will see it,
right,
respond, or go off of it, and that's how they've compounded to successful
yeah,
measures. And a lot of the AIDS researchers went into COVID, and arguably that's how we got to where we're at as quickly as we did. Excuse me.
yeah,
So, but that's
yeah. And
yes,
that's one of the critiques in academia is that journals will only publish success, right?
right.
We don't learn about the failures until somebody goes and says, I want to do a meta-analysis. Anybody who's ever done a study on this, no matter how bad it worked out, send me your data so we can, compile it and put it together. But yeah,
There are
learn,
some scientists that have been doing a COVID vaccine, but they're doing it in a like open forum. So they're doing it as a collect a group collective. They put it out there how they did it, and they have it open for, and it's easy to to download and build, and then
Right.
having people just contribute, and it's
Mhm.
been doing that. And I think really from here on out, especially, and I think that a lot of these kind of meetings and stuff like that have sparked the old, like, what do they call it, the brain, like, now I can't even, brainstorming, the old
Yeah.
brainstorming team events that they would
Mhm.
just get people together and go, we're going to brainstorm this. It's a lot easier to have and go off topic, as we see through this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That it's a lot easier through this medium to have those things happen.
Yeah.
I was on a Zoom meeting on Thursday, and we were going over some of the new things that we're going to try to do, and I tried to hang up on you. Um, and it was just nothing but like, oh, I could do this for darkest. Cold wave should do this. So, it was just like
Right.
all the thoughts just started like building, and it's like I have a 50-page email ready to send, but I'm like, okay, I have to reel it in and find the concise points and find what works and what doesn't work
Right.
before I start pitching it to everybody else. But yeah, I mean,
Well, I
it's been
getting
fun.
into my professor hat here, the the reason why that whole thing with the open brainstorming
And open
works
source.
well.
That's the word that I
Yeah.
wanted.
The reason that works so well is that um, creativity is basically combination of knowledge, right? So an idea is taking two things of knowledge and combining them into something new, right? For something to be really novel, the bits of knowledge should be very different.
Sure.
So when you start bringing people from with different knowledge, and no two people on earth have the exact same knowledge, right? Because no two
Right.
people have the same experience. That's where you come up with ideas. That's so anytime someone is like, you know, how come that person thought, why didn't I think of that? Well, that's just simply because you don't have the same collection of knowledge bits inside your head that create the concepts.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's definitely been interesting and fun and a lot of learning, which is great because, like, I know we all learn something new every day. You really do, but
mhm,
like during this, it's like searching out things to find. Oh, I'm going to teach myself how to do this. I did some classwork pertaining to mental health. I did some, uh, video editing, learning video editing, and I've been making videos for songs that don't have videos and trying to get better and better at doing that. Using the sources and the things that I have that I never used before because I
yeah,
never learned. You know, teaching, trying to teach myself chess. Like, I mean, it's just critical thinking and pushing the envelopes of what we do while you're sitting. We're sitting on our asses,
yeah,
23 hours a day. It's like, what do let's do something. So we learned how to stream. We're learning how to perfect streaming.
yeah,
It's it definitely has reinvigorated aspects of doing all of this in me that I'm like, oh wow, this is exciting. This is new. This is something that I haven't felt this since, the internet started, really. Like when we were first starting to um,
get on
try to
AOL,
promote
Prodigy, or
online.
CompuServe, or all that dial up.
Ah, my God, the dial up. But yeah, I mean, it's like, I like from the beginning. I mean, I was starting to promote for the bar and trying to figure out different ways to promote through that. And yes, AOL, and then all the different things. Friendster, MySpace, Facebook, beginning, and I mean, all of all of the platforms that went away obviously went away. The ones that are still here have become hip to what people were doing, and now we're trying
Mhm.
to charge for it. So now you're trying to figure out. new ways to do the same thing with new and different platforms. So it's always constant.
Yeah. So you mentioned Darkest Before Dawn. Little
Nice plug.
shout out. And
Miles did a
so
great job on that shirt.
yeah. So well, first of all, just for those that are unfamiliar with it, tell us a little bit about what Darkest Before Dawn is.
Okay, Darkest Before Dawn is a nonprofit in Chicago focused on the service industry, mostly on mental health in the service industry. As we've learned through trying to help people with mental health, it's, I mean, it's become mental, physical, and, for lack of a better term, spiritual health, trying to figure out ways that people can, you know, be a community.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, everybody involved has been into this scene for so long that it was like in the 90s, the the industry had this like sub community and there was community, and that's gone away with the way that clubs have segregated the community, not segregation in any negative terms, but like it's the status of your bar or what you do, and then people being people just kind of went away, and we want to bring back to a community within this community that is, our community is underserved. It's become very obvious that nobody cares about the $11 billion industry that is the bar and restaurant industry, through this pandemic. And then you add venue workers and the stages that we're going to be losing. We are constantly refocusing on what we're trying to do. Basically, the easiest way to put it is we want to help the entirety of the industry. We've been saying for industry, by industry, because everybody who works with Darkest Before Dawn
Mm-hmm.
is or has been industry for a long time. You're not talking about like, oh, we did it for 5 minutes. It's years and years and years and
Right.
years. So, it's a lot of subcultures have a hard time talking to people outside of their subculture. And that's kind of what we're trying to open up is we're part of the subculture. We understand that shithead at 3 o'clock in the morning that you had to kick out. We were there too. We understand
Mm-hmm.
what, being stiffed is. We understand the importance of it. We understand getting mugged on the way home because you're walking out of your bar with the cash.
Mm.
There are so many aspects of this industry that most people don't realize exist or don't think about. It is very, I mean, most people are working without any sort of health insurance. There is, we're not getting whatever the regular minimum wage is. You're getting a service minimum wage. In Indiana, that's still $2.14. There are 14 states that are still at the federal minimum of $2.14.
Wow.
Or $3. Might be 3.14. But thankfully Chicago is a more progressive with the money, but still, I mean, it's next to nothing. And historically, the service industry has not been able to get unemployment. So this whole thing has been very new, unique, and different.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know because tips are taxed at a different rate than hourly. So they haven't been able to figure out how to accurately give unemployment. So a lot of the industry is getting like $50, $60 a week.
Wow.
Who lives on $50 or $60 a week? Nobody does.
Right.
So, the CARES Act helped a lot. Hopefully they'll get their stuff together and pass an extension in the next few days, but
Yeah.
I'm not holding my breath because other than AOC, I don't think anyone really knows or cares what the people who serve you do. We are the peasants of the world. I mean, it's, but again, it's, I don't want to be negative. We're trying to unite and help people through these things, the mental traumas of not knowing where your next meal, how you're going to pay your rent, during this time is, the big conversation in our weekly meetups. It's also a lot of just trying to figure out how to be better moving forward. How to get um, these issues to stay highlighted by some politicians after things start to go back to
Right.
normal, if they start to go back to normal. So it's that in a very long-winded breath that went all over the place is kind of what we do.
You say all over the place, but there is a lot to cover, right?
Well, yeah.
The last thing you were just talking about, with keeping politicians' attention, it's while you were talking, one of the things I was thinking about is this lack of awareness,
Mm-hmm.
right, among people outside the industry, right? And I remember, last year I had my students working on a project for Darkest, right? And when the class started learning about, what life was like, working in that industry, they're like, wow, no idea. Because you know what, we're always drunk and we don't know what's going on. So, you know, so I think, just bringing more awareness um, is, I mean, I don't know that that's what a purpose of Darkest, but I could see that being, an offshoot, perhaps, is a
I mean, there needs to be an informative side that is trying to, I mean, people don't realize that tips is an anagram. It is not, it's not just a word. It's to ensure proper service because people in the industry aren't getting paid
mhm,
a full boat wage for the most part. I mean, yeah, there are rare jobs out there, but the majority of the people that you see at the pub or at the club are making very little
mhm,
outside of your tips. So when you don't tip or you under tip, you're taking
right,
you're so many people and so many young people that I've talked to in the last few years think that you're making, the $10 to $14 an hour that is whatever the current minimum wage of the city working is. And that's not the case at all. I mean, it's usually half that or less. And you're working for tips. Those tips are what you're surviving on because
right,
when you declare your tips, that whatever your hourly pittance is goes down because you're declaring tips, so they're taking your taxes out of that money. And there is a lot of times that you end up with negative check, not negative checks, but zeroed out checks. So at the end of the year, you're in a position to pay. You have to, figure out how that all works. There's so much to it. It's a weird budget. I'm terrible at budgeting in life, but yet at the same time, I'm budgeting all the time when you're trying to figure out what you're declaring, how you're declaring it, what it
mhm,
is. I mean, because in certain jobs that I've had, if I declared 100% about what I made, I would be owing so much money that I don't have at the end of the year. And then in other jobs, it's like you're declaring 100% and you're still not making any money. It's, I think after a certain amount of time, it becomes a labor of love that it's not because it's a lucrative career, because
Right.
sometimes it is, sometimes it's great. There have been periods that it was, I mean, making more than executives.
Mm.
And then there are periods that, you're barely above, above poverty level.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't know how you're going to survive. And it's, all of that leads to trying to shut off your brain
Hmm.
in some way, shape, or form, whether it be through drugs, alcohol, or many other not the not the best coping mechanisms.
Right.
So you get a high level of addiction through in the industry, and it's trying to figure out how to best deal with that.
Hmm.
I was having a long conversation with family members this week about like when you deal with uh, a fight in the bar, and you have to break up a fight or any sort of altercation, and you get it done, and when you get back it's doing what you're doing, your adrenaline is so high.
Mm.
And when I was bartending or bar backing, when I would get behind the bar after dealing with a situation, it'd be like shot one, shot two, shot three, just trying to get back to normal, so you're not like
Right.
wanting to jump down somebody's throat, and then at the end of the night you're curled up in a ball, because you did more than your normal allocation is. It's and there's no real trainings out there for how to cope with these situations and how terrible people can be. I mean, you don't really ever think about it unless you sit there and really see
Right.
somebody belittling the staff, and it
Right.
happens so much more than any of us want to admit. um, and all of these things are a grand focus of how do we do better. And I mean, right now we have the meetup to talk, vent, listen, and try to at least have an out.
Hmm.
And for myself, I know that if I'm upset about something, or something's really on my mind, if I talk about it, I feel markedly better. It doesn't mean I'm feeling great about it. It means that I'm feeling markedly better. So, less likely to have to, you know, calm myself down in other ways.
Right. Right.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, but it's a journey, and it's a hard journey. I've been doing this for 27 years, and
Yeah.
it's,
So for anybody watching, what would you tell them is like the best thing they could do to help?
um, be human. Remember, the people that are taking your order and are serving you for the evening are human. The door guys are human. They've got feelings, they have emotion, they're people. For the most part, nobody is out there, feeling themselves going, I'm just going to be a dick at the door and not let you in. There's a reason for it. You're overserved, you don't have a proper ID, I could only imagine actually being open now and having to deal with trying to tell people you have to wear a mask. Like, I mean, there
Yeah.
is so many little things. We're people, and we literally live to serve you, because without it, we don't live. I mean, not to go into all of the negatives, because there are a ton of positives too. I mean, the freedom to be able to go on tour if you're a musician, the freedom to be able to take the time and be in the situations that you want to be in, and
Mhm.
afford the luxury to afford these things. It's, it's great when it's great, but it's not always great. And then you get into a circle of, how am I going to make my next rent? How am I going to make, if
Right.
you have a car payment, insurance payment? It's like, years had gone by that I didn't have health insurance. And one year I'm just like, I have to budget in money
Hmm.
for monthly health insurance, because I'm getting older. you know, something's gonna fail. And, thankfully I did that. And then I, reworked some of my medications and, I'm, in a better place that way. But we live on tips. We don't live on, it's not a bonus. That's how people make a
Right.
living. And during this time, I think it's important for people to know that the people that are out of work, our employment, unless something changes, ends on the 26th. So who knows how people are going to make money?
Right.
People like Late Bar, um, and plenty of other DJs that are out there are surviving on the generous donations that are given out there. And if you're working, if you have the means, pretend you're at the bar for a night and tip like you'd tip. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. What I put in, in the chat a lot of times is just think about how much money you would spend on your Uber ride, the cover charge, on your drinks, right? On your late night, you know, food stop,
food.
and right. And then your other Uber, right? And then that's $100 easy, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
100,
So
$100
so
is just that. Yeah.
right. So what's $5 for a sub, or some bits. That's why I push these hype trains. It's at least something that I can do to try and help bring attention to that people. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of DJs that still have like full-time jobs, and they just do this to
Hmm.
make a little extra, or just to keep going. But there's plenty out there that rely on this as their income, and I try to
It's,
remind people of that. Yeah.
it's supplemental. I mean, of course, it's like until we don't have unemployment, it's unemployment and that, and, you know, in many cases, the link card and, being, and I can tell you from being a very proud person that had a very hard time asking for help that this has been very humbling.
Hmm.
And, you know, people in our community talk about the community. This is the time that the community shows. And thankfully, the Late Bar community has been very good. I mean, it could all everything can always be better, but we
Right.
are very thankful for what has been donated, what people do, the amount of asking for addresses this year and getting like Christmas cards and like the things that normally happen in the bar, like people will come and see and give you your Christmas card, and it's oh great, this year it means that much more because you have to take more steps. It's I don't know, it's we appreciate you guys so much, and it's it's weird for all of us.
Hmm.
This whole time frame is just very bizarre, and it feels like we're in an alternate universe, and I want to get back to ours, but we'll never quite get back there because this
Right.
will always have happened. you know Masks are going to be the new accessory that we're all wearing for a
Mhm.
long time to come, because even after the vaccines out there, there's the next thing. We have to look to
Yeah.
Japan. They've been doing it for forever with masks on, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well, it's also just like was saying earlier, that that having gone through this for almost a year now, people are changing behaviors, right? Their expectations are different now. This whole idea of this interaction with the music, right? To
mhm.
be able to hop from one club to another, right? That's
Right.
right. That's going to have an impact on getting back to normal, because it's not
Well,
going to be the same.
the very interesting thing is that if done right, and there are some platforms out there and emerging and changing, but I think that there is a potential to literally have somebody in Berlin DJ your club
Hmm.
virtually and have like, I mean, there is, I mean, granted, everybody has to have good internet to make that happen and some safeguards in place, but I mean, you
Right.
can really have some very interesting interactive events. And I'm seeing more and more interesting interactive events happening online now, which is
Hmm.
great. And we all want to go back and be elbow to elbow sweaty at a show. I mean, I miss the hell out of live music. Thankfully, these, some of these quarantine videos are really like it's giving the feel that live feel, even
Hmm.
though it's a pre-recorded or like um the Mopop in Museum of Pop Art, Popular Culture in
Okay.
Seattle just did a they honored Alice in Chains,
Mm.
and they did a completely socially distanced 2-hour program where bands either sent in video doing things in different studios, those Zoom type performances, or they had several of the Seattle musicians in the museum, but everybody was socially distanced, wearing masks unless they were
Hmm.
singing. There was a singer who didn't wear a mask because of the singing. They were on like another level or far away.
Yeah.
They did a really interesting job of honoring and truly honoring a a great long-standing band and made a very special event with zero attendees. Like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame could have learned from what they did
Yeah.
if only this came first. Like, but it was really interesting, and all of that stuff, like watching how that's happening is what's fascinating me. I think that there's a very good market that should be emerging where bands can do, okay, we're going to just set up a room in our apartment or our house and we're going to make it look more like a club, and we can
Mhm.
do, our drummer can play with lights going, and everybody do a
Right.
thing, and then edit it all together as we're seeing them do,
Right.
and have a new live. There have been a few virtual events right in March or April. This band Horisont that is from Sweden, because Sweden's restrictions were lessened. They
Mm.
did a socially distanced record release party where it was just their crew and the video crew and the opening band that were and they did a performance on stage with multiple camera angles and streamed it live, or at least pretty live. It
Mhm.
seemed like it was actually happening in real time, but
Yeah.
they probably had a lag to do some things, but there are ways to do these things, and there are ways to move it forward, um, while we can't all be together. And to go back to what we talked about earlier is, I mean, the chats on these streams is so much fun,
Yeah.
because yes, you can tell stories. You can tell fun. Oh, remember when you fell off that bar stool, Dave? Stories, or or like that time you kicked out member of what band X, or like
Right.
what
Right. Right.
there's, and everybody who is doing this has a story,
Hmm.
has something to talk about, and it's been fun to be able to
Yeah.
type in between, and it's acquiring a new skill to get your timing down, to not like to be telling a story and not miss
Right.
your cue. But it's interesting, it's different, it's new, and I as much as I want to see everybody face to face, this is a pretty good
Yeah.
interim.
couldn't imagine this, 100 years ago, even 10 years ago, you
Well,
know?
right, exactly. I mean, and how much of the technology has changed while we've been doing
Yeah.
this, is really, I mean, can you imagine how many people having green screens at home? Was that your cat?
Yes. Well, it's Twitch, so there's got to be a cat at some point, right?
That's true. There's always cats.
Goths and their cats. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so much interesting things, and everybody's trying to figure out ways
Mhm.
to do it. And, some unfortunately are being more greedy about it.
Mm.
Um, like the one thing that I wish was out there, and I'm sure everybody who DJs on Twitch or any other platform agrees, is Mixcloud does a wonderful thing of, if you subscribe and you pay for the
Mhm.
subscription as the DJ, they take care of ASCAP and BMG payments, so you're not going to
Right.
have disputes. Twitch has been having problems with disputes from record labels that has been coming up, and Periscope doesn't typically care, but they have other things like, we use Restream, and there's like a chat bot that you can have going. And if you do the chat bot on Periscope, it will boot you for spam.
Mm.
So, I mean, you have to learn which platform's doing what thing.
Right.
The interesting thing is, when I did the whole quarantine video things, I think one song got cut because it was actually a release that was just done quarantine style.
Mm.
Um, but other than that, none of the songs are hitting the bots that are
Right.
listening
Right. Right.
for
Yeah.
copyright.
I've seen some DJs try like changing the pitch and all this kind of stuff to try and get
Yeah,
around the
if
bots. It's like,
if you pitch it, it will work, but it's almost to the point that you have to pitch it that it's noticeable,
yeah.
and you don't want
I've
it
noticed.
noticeable.
Yeah, right. I'm like, this sounds different. It sounds slow, or this, like
Something's
what?
wrong here.
Yeah, yeah,
Why does everybody sound like typo negative? And
yeah.
why does Peter Steele sound like he's on Quaaludes? Um, but I mean, that would be a thing, especially which would make, doing the affiliate or partner on
Mhm.
Twitch much more um, feasible for people to do, is if they would just cover those costs.
Right.
You're already taking money for what? I mean, they're for each subscription they're taking
Like
money.
they're taking
Just
half
put
of it.
it to where it should be. They're like, they'll cover your BMG and ASCAP if you use Amazon Music, which you
Mhm.
can't do videos. So if you're just doing audio and you use their product, they won't they'll pay it because you're paying them on another level,
Right.
and all we're trying to do is entertain people. I mean, like, the whole point of my Mondays isn't, I'm glad to get tipped, but I'm not out here trying to get, like, trying to survive off of it. It's part of my mental health. It's part of me needing to have an output. And this output has spawned me to, like I said, learn different video editing programs. So I'm doing things throughout the week, trying to prepare for the next week.
Yeah.
And it's filling a lot of time. And that's good, because
Right.
otherwise I'm
Right.
sitting here going, I mean, I can't even tell you how many things that we binge watched, like the entire series of, like, oh, this was on for 6 seasons. We watched it in a week. Yeah, 22 episodes
Yeah.
a season. How the hell did I watch that much TV? Plus, going on all of these streams, and, like, I mean, I'm here moderating the late bar stream right now. I
Yeah.
have off screen, I have another screen that I keep
All right.
looking at,
Yeah.
and the TV in front of me, so I'm still moderating what's going on. So even if I'm not the DJ per se,
Right.
I'm always, involved in some way. And if Lisa's not DJing, she's doing the same thing.
Right.
So, it's still work, but we're just not really getting paid for it.
Well, you know what? I know you can't do the affiliate for late
It's not
bar,
that we can't, we just have to figure it out.
right? But at least right now, you guys could set up your own.
Well, right. I'm still waiting to hit. I think that I just hit where I can become a affiliate status because I hit 50 subscribers or 50
Followers.
followers.
Okay.
So I think that I could do it now, but I haven't checked into it for a while.
Yeah. Well, you
Um,
also have to have like a certain amount of time, that you've streamed in the last month, and then certain amount of
right.
conversations going on. So
I
so
think
what I
that
would
I've hit
say,
all of the things, but
yeah,
if it's time and video, I have literally every I think every time that I have DJ'd at Late
mhm,
Bar, I have the history on my computer. So I mean, I can just go and start doing events at odd times and I'm thinking about doing some more. Like I want to do a like 90s my way. We have a 90s night on Thursdays, but there are things in the 90s that never get touched. I want to hit alternative, hard alternative, the
mhm,
metal that was going on.
right,
You know, I have historically listened to music that nobody else listens to, and part of me DJing has always been trying to get people to know unknown bands.
right,
You know, and to moderate success, but so I want to do something like the 90s era my way. I also want to do a roots rock and roll night, so like the roots of rock and roll, early rock and roll, probably through rock through the 70s.
yeah.
um but it's just niching out the time and doing it, and the best laid plans
Well,
don't always
here
happen.
here's an opportunity for you to, or I can do it, is pitch that. Go and follow Dan, DJ 11 Chicago. Go into his stream and say something, chat a little bit, so he can get himself up to affiliate status.
Why, thank you.
And then he can start having emotes too.
Well, yeah, yes, that might be fun.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the reasons I started doing mine to begin with, was because I wanted my first emote is tip your DJ or tip the
Right.
DJ, right? Because I wanted to be able to
I use
do
that
that.
one often.
Yeah, and then the rest of them are all ones that I just wanted for myself. So um, right now the Chicago flag one I redid, and I'm waiting for them to approve it. It's like, shouldn't be that hard to approve, but yeah, I've seen that one popping up a lot too.
Yeah, I use that one too.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
it.
yeah. So we've hit on a lot of the stuff that's already on my list, and I'm not sure how long we've been going for, but it's obviously been a really good conversation, and we can definitely do another one uh,
Well,
sometime soon. Um,
excellent.
but my closing question for you is,
Sure.
what gives you hope?
I think that I have touched on that a little bit, is watching the community around this and enjoying it. Like, I mean, I have followers literally all over the world and mostly all over the nation that come on Mondays now,
Mhm,
that just stumbled across whatever. And it's great to sit there and be able to talk and get to know new people
mhm,
and establish friendships. And I mean, we've gotten to know quite a few DJs and quite a few different platforms. And I think that what I was hinting at earlier with some of the things that we're working on, I think we have an opportunity to do some really cool things that could be, cross country or across the world,
Yeah.
where you're getting, more interaction and having guest DJs, or like different spots, integrating other platforms like Zoom or Google Meet into what your product that you're putting out is. And the more that I learn and I watch, the more I'm enjoying that. And what's giving me hope is watching how many people come back. We had some technical difficulties getting on
Hmm.
tonight, and it was like all of our our phones and other socials were blowing up going, "Are you guys not going to be on tonight?" And it's like just that anticipation.
Yeah.
It's the annoying first customer an hour and a half before you open, knocking on the door, that you're like, do you read the posted time? Because in life, those are what the annoyances were. It's like the stupid questions, the just not paying attention. And now I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna be giddy the first fight I break up. Like how weird is that thought? It's like, but yeah, I just community and the amount of people that I've been privileged enough to get to know better because of being empathetic and reaching out, and like just wanting to make sure that we're okay. And I mean, we do the same thing,
Hmm.
but I mean, it's great because I've always been that person. I've always been the one who reaches out, friends that I haven't heard from in a while, just thinking about you. I mean, that's just always who I've been.
Hmm.
um, it feels really good when the shoe's on the other foot, and that makes me smile a lot. And I mean, watching it's like I have a 16-year-old, and watching her exploding in life even during this hard time, and like just embracing so many aspects that it makes me proud to see her embrace, the community, hope, love, and spreading love and spreading the word and being positive. That gives me hope for the future. um i I've often said, when it came to Darkest Before Dawn, the reason that I was so quick to want to be part of that is because I want my daughter to know that there are good people in the world, and I want her to know that her dad's one. And that is my selfish reason for doing it. I
Yep.
mean, the selfless part is the fact that I've been in this industry for 27 years, and I think that my experiences can help people. And the collective of all of us involved, we're all of the same mindset. We want to help people. We want to help people. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
the mantra is, we want to help people. You know, I often use "we're listening" because I like Frasier a lot, but it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need anything, I'm here. Message me anytime. And I might have to put up a boundary or two when that happens, but it's I mean, really, that's it. I want to help, and I want to help the community, and I want the community to help itself. I'm going to shamelessly plug an old boss of mine, who runs a restaurant in Ukrainian Village, right next to the old
In Chicago.
lockdown in Chicago. Yeah, sorry. And I have to look at the name because I was unprepared to do this. But Robert, who runs Taqueria Cochina, is a, which I'm probably butchering. It's a Korean Korean Mexican fusion
Mm.
restaurant. He has been doing. He did for Thanksgiving got a bunch of his suppliers and other restaurants to donate, and they fed over 1,000 people for
Wow.
Thanksgiving.
Wow.
They're doing the same thing for Christmas, and it's bigger. Uh, Jack and Ginger's is helping and has been the big pickup spot. But watching people that I respected in the industry do things that are growing the respect,
Hmm.
and just he's going to homeless areas and giving food, you know almost daily at this point, and it's heartwarming to watch somebody doing such good
Yeah.
for the community. And most of the time he's just doing it, and he's not even promoting his restaurant through it. It's just he's doing it. Yeah,
Because it's the right
they're
thing.
one of the names on it.
Yeah.
What?
Because it's the right
It,
thing to do.
well, right.
Yeah.
And you have the means or the ability, and
Right.
restaurants as a whole typically have a lot of food that's going to go bad, or the usable dates. It's still good food, but it's beyond the usable date for
Mm.
the restaurant.
Yeah.
So to do things like this is such a smart thing to do, and it's
Mm.
wonderful. And I'm gonna see if I can quickly find the website.
Well, I
um
think a team of my students this last semester would really like hearing that, because that was their concept, was to gather food from that's still edible but not, restaurant ready,
right.
um, and um, get that collected and uh, repurposed, or transformed, and it's sold uh, at a really discount price to people that need it, or pay what you can, or free, or whatever it
So
might be.
if anyone is interested in seeing what this is, or donating, donations can be made through Venmo to at TAKOREACOCINA, or through Zelly Quick Pay at 773-807-0057. If you are interested or need food, you can go to where is it? Okay. Email Robert at westtownfeeds@gmail.com. That's Robert at westtownfeeds@gmail.com. And you can do a reservation for a Christmas meal. That, more than anything, has inspired me lately. And it took me a minute to get there.
Uh, well, this is where I should learn some editing, so I could say, like, click the link here. Yeah, I'll have to look at that. But can you say that the name that you spelled out earlier?
Oh, the Robert,
No, before
or
that.
the restaurant?
Yeah.
I will spell it because I am butchering it because I don't know what I'm doing. So it's Venmo at TAKOREACOCINA.
Okay. Got it.
And I mean, I
I,
might be
I,
able
I
to.
can see where that's a Mexican Korean fusion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wish that I was on this device, because then I'd screen share it.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe I can
But,
figure out how to put it on there at some point. Maybe
but
not
I'm
before
not
the first time to share this, but since this is recorded, I can play it again in the future. So,
right. We can learn as we go.
right.
Um, I mean, I would totally be able to edit all of this down for you, but I just don't know what I would keep. I'd probably get rid of all of me.
Yeah, well, um, well, I'm going to keep it raw for right now. Just You know,
Just
because
for shits and giggles.
well, I mean, you never know that like something that you might cut out might be something that was really interesting to somebody. So, you know,
Right.
if there's something that they're not interested in, then they can go and go bathroom break or something, you know, whatever.
Oh, he's interviewing Dan. I'll just not do that. Oh, it's that guy. He
Yeah.
kicked me out of the bar. I don't want to watch that.
All right. So with that, we'll wrap this up, and when this airs, we'll be rating your Metal Monday.
Excellent.
So we'll be, I guess, in store for some old rock to begin with, some 60s or 70s, I guess.
Well, it depends what day you're doing it. You might be in store for some holiday music.
Well, that's true. Well,
If you do
yeah.
it Monday, it'll be
Well,
old rock and roll holiday music.
yeah. Well, yeah. This first one is going to be this Monday coming up for Christmas. So,
I mean,
yeah.
it's not all going to be holiday music.
Yeah. Really quickly, did you want to pitch the New Year's plans for Lake Bar?
They'll be popping up on Facebook
Okay.
soon. We'll be doing an event. It's still, I can't really pitch it because I'm not 100% sure who's involved.
Okay.
We're still hammering out the
Me too.
details, but I'll be DJing. Lisa will be DJing, and then Tarsus from Boombox for sure. And
Okay.
then hopefully we'll have a couple other guests with us.
Right. So for those of us who have had a tradition of late bar for New Year's for many, many, many years now, we still have something we can go to.
Yes.
So that's good to know.
Yeah. Yes. And it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be coming
find some of
from
those
multiple locations. Well, they
it's
have
not
them
the
at
same without the
Walgreens
plastic
still.
hat.
They still. I'll buy you a box and send it to you. Or go to Walgreens and buy one.
Yeah.
Parties.
Yeah.
I'll plug my daughter's work, Party City.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time talking to me. It's
Thanks for having me.
great. So let me stop it here.